now let's talk about night 2 of Wrestle Grand Slam at the MetLife Dome. So, night 2. Unpaused. Let's just, again, go down the list of matches. So, the first one is another Stardom exhibition match. So, again, back for night 2 is Momo Watanabe and Saya Kamitani. And they are going up against members of Donna Del Mondo, of course, being Suri and Julia, who recently had a pretty good tag run in Stardom. And in which case, Donna Del Mondo came out again and got the victory. It was unsurprising to me because Julia and Suri kind of debuted kind of new Dayglow gear, which looked pretty cool. I will admit, I felt some kind of Kagetsui vibes a little bit from Julia's gear. Just, I don't know. I think it's the hair. Actually, no. Yeah. I know it's the hair. But
I was like,
yeah, another good match.
We're gonna lose the mask. We're sitting there like that.
Yeah.
And then they like reach up, like, oh shit. I was like, oh, it's coming off. It's coming off. They're gonna make it. They did. They made it.
It was a good match, though.
Really good.
Again, made my grandpa more firmly a fan of Momo Watanabe. He was just genuinely super, like, he was watching these as we were watching it, and he was just like, the Wahines, they good, huh? They give them.
Japan.
Yeah, and I was just like, yeah, Grandpa, they no scare them.
If mainland companies were smart, like Japan has their tours, they send them away for a season. We'd be sending our women to Japan and giving them that year's worth of training over there. In my opinion, that would go a far, far way.
Yeah. And I mean, especially with this sort of, I guess I could say, resurgence of the popularity of female Japanese wrestlers. You see, everyone loves Asuka. Everyone loves Meiko Satomura over in NXT UK. Hikaru Shida, Riho. Emi Sakura just came over. She just left Chocopro and came over to AEW, I think, full-time. Mizunami was part of AEW for some time. I think she ended up getting sick. She was hospitalized for a bit. I don't know if she's coming back, but I think that's in the plan. So just seeing how many people have really bought into a lot of the talent. Of course, Maki Ito, who went over huge when she came to AEW. There's so much talent from Japan that now I'm really glad, instead of just focusing on the guys, a lot more women are getting that attention for being really excellent, because God, they really are excellent. So yeah, always glad for the Stardom exhibition matches. Stoked, like how we said for night 1, stoked that we actually got to see them now as part of the show rather than having to look for them elsewhere. All right, so the first match on the card, it is a tag team match between United Empire's Great Okan and Jeff Cobb and Chaos's Okada and Ishii. So just an interesting note to me, it feels weird, and I get it with the current storyline that's going on, feels weird that Ishii is always split up from the other 2 members of his 6-man tag team championships. It's always Yoshihashi and Goto, and Ishii always ends up being kind of on the side or occupied with another sort of match, which makes me feel weird. I don't know if it means anything because it's hard to tell with Chaos, but just something that I've noticed as of late that has made me a little bit anxious. Another great match. God, it really kind of solidifies last night's or the, night one sort of outcome of Okada getting beaten by Jeff Cobb with Great Khan taking out Ishii here. But kind of hard to go wrong when you've got these four guys in a ring. Great Khan, I think, is making a lot of progress in his character and in his in-ring work. His in-ring work wasn't bad before, but seeing a lot more character in his movement style, I really appreciate.
And I mean, I think all that comes in time of working with guys like, Okada, Ishii, and even Jeff Cobb. He's really been thrown in there with a lot of the bigger names. So, I think we'll see a lot of, Okada in the future. I don't think he's going to just disappear to the wayside. We may never get a title run with him per se, but I think
he'll be a never champ at least.
Oh, I mean, I don't sometimes include the never champ because it gets passed around pretty freely.
I love the never belt, but
you know what I'm saying.
I hate to give any credit to Ospreay, as you know, but I think it did Great Khan such a service to have him come in as part of a totally new stable rather than joining an existing one.
Yeah.
Upon his return.
I won't give credit to Ospreay for that.
Well, I know, but I mean, as the face of the United Empire in storyline, I think if he were to have gone anywhere else, he wouldn't feel like as much of a big deal. You know what I mean? Even if he went to Hontai like Master Wato did, and I mean that's kind of a telling tale, right? Master Wato away to the Grandmaster, the Dominator, Great Khan. I think more people were excited for the return of Kawato-san. It was treated like more of a big deal. And I hate to be this guy because I love Kawato-san, but look at where he is now versus look at where Great Khan is now. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Great Khan was brought in as part of this brand new stable, and he was given a lot more space to grow on his own rather than kind
it's
of
hard to be it really is. You can drag being a heel out way further than being a babyface. So I think in that regard, you could be a heel and get over without winning the match. Babyface is kind of hard sometimes, unless you just come out as like this super underdog and really show a lot of fire in your match to get the crowd behind you. If you lose, then obviously you're seen as the loser.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's to me what's interesting is you have Ishii, who's one of the your top guys. You have Okada, who is kind of the current ace, I guess you would say, of the promotion. And here's your opening match. Really, it's kind of like twofold. Like, okay, tonight's going to be a banger because you're starting with your top talents. And again, like you said, coming off of the Okada Jeff Cobb match too. Just playing all that up. So, good stuff.
Yeah. No, I've found that I actually have really I've come to really enjoy the Great Khan much more than I thought I would. Because when I found out that he had that gimmick change when he went on excursion, right, I was really not into it. It kind of, I liked Oka as Oka. So I kind of didn't buy in, but seeing him do it now, and how much more comfortable and how much more natural, I guess, it feels to him now, a world of difference. And yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised with the United Empire, and that is something that I never thought I'd say. And speaking of another pleasant surprise, that's my segue. Speaking of another pleasant surprise, even though I'll get heat for this because Bullet Club, but Suzuki-gun, represented by El Desperado and Yoshinobu Kanemaru, went up against the, at the time, IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, as they call themselves, Bullet Club's cutest tag team, that is Taiji Ishimori and El Phantasmo. And yeah, I will say this, and this is, of course, a spoiler for the match in of itself. I am so glad that Taiji Ishimori did not take the pin. I was really scared. Nothing against ELP. I like ELP. I think, contrary to you, I think he's a good addition to Bullet Club because I think he's a great shit heel.
He is a good heel.
And I think for a long time we had so many people that were just cool in Bullet Club and not really as provocative as him. So I really appreciate ELP just healing it up and being a dickhead to people. I do. In a way that's more effective than Chase Owens. But I gotta say, I love Desperado and Kanemaru as tag champs.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but I have much more fun watching those matches. I do think it's interesting, and I do like what they did with kind of exposing the sudden death, right? Where he hits ELP with his own boot and it knocks him out.
That was
they've played this whole thing very weird. And I don't know if I fully understand it, but I did appreciate that moment of Desperado just being like, "Paw!" and then he pulls out his hand and he's like, "Shit."
Like I said, I've been caught up on it a lot, so I was kind of left going like, okay, is there a gimmick here that I haven't seen from what's his face, that
ELP?
Yeah, that hasn't, that I'm just not aware of. Like, I feel like there has to be, like, is he
with the boot?
The Stan Lane loaded boot. Is that
so that was what a lot of people were claiming. So during their matches against Taguchi and Rocky and Taguchi and Master Wato in the Super Junior Tag League, when ELP came back to Japan, actually when ELP came back to New Japan in general, because I think he also used this in the Super J Cup, which is over in Los Angeles. The whole story was, wow, now he's got this insane finisher called the sudden death, which is just kind of basically a kick, but it knocks people out. And his story was that, oh no, I got this because I spent a lot of time kicking trees in Canada and really building up my strength and my kicking power. And so for a lot of time they would be like, oh yeah, check him, check his boots. Is there anything in there? And the ref would be like, doesn't seem like there's anything on the outside of the boot. And for a while they were only checking the outside, and then they started checking the inside, and whenever they checked the inside and they didn't find anything, was one of the matches where he didn't use that finisher. So it was one of those things of like, oh, he doesn't have it in his boot, so he can't do it this time. So I like that there was at least some sort of payoff towards that
Uh-huh.
in this match, even if it wasn't as explicit as him pulling out like a sheet metal or something. You know, I liked that. Also, I just like Desperado in general.
Yeah.
And
Funny, I was kind of like on the outs of the joke, so to speak. It must be a loaded boot, but I was just like, why is he taking it off to use it? And then I get it that the other people can get it and everything, but
yeah, it takes it a long way.
Yeah. So it was funny though. It was funny. Just that final punch and holding it, the boot. Boom. I was like, yeah, that'd be a great picture right there.
Yeah, it was good.
You're doing it wrong. I was like, hey, my son does that with his socks. So.
Hey, Desperado breaks all the rules, man. He unmasked himself last year when Hidom was ripping his mask. He was just like, you know what? You want to rip off my mask? I'll rip off my mask first. I love Desperado. Psycho. But yeah. And so from the junior heavyweight tag match to the heavyweight tag match. So this next match was a 3-way. And so it was Dangerous Techers being Taichi and Zack Sabre Jr. defending against members of Chaos, specifically Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi, 2 of the 3 members of the 6-man tag, and LIJ represented by Naito and Sanada. Man, this match was chaos.
It was.
No pun intended. Even though they did not win. But I had a lot of fun watching this match.
It was a fun match.
I had way more fun watching this match than I really expected I was going to. Also, Miho Abe is back.
You know, the match was super long. But it was fun. It's like every time you'd get 2 teams in, and then you have 3 teams in, they just beat the shit out of each other. And then one team would get tossed out. And it just kept going and going and going. And I was like, this is like playing a video game. You know, it really is. Like, you can't get the pinfall because there's so many people. And, I mean, it wasn't a tornado tag per se, but it was really a tornado tag.
Yeah, it felt like a tornado tag. It took me a second to realize that it wasn't one, honestly.
There was no control. It didn't have that opening where they're deciding, okay, who's starting. You know, if there wasn't that little bit, I don't think you would even have. You would be confused at the end of the match where it's like, oh, he tagged in. It's like, oh wait, I thought this was a tornado tag.
Yeah, no, I was just like, oh yeah, I guess it's not technically a tornado tag. So they had that moment. It was great. Yeah,
it was just like just go at it. There was a moment though where it was like, oh, Yoshihashi must have got hurt because they were kind of like everything paused. You know, they were buying time because I know Naito and Sanada were just kind of like standing above him. So I think Yoshihashi got knocked out at one point. Knocked out or it seemed like he was injured or something because they gave him a long time just being down. And it was like, okay, we can't hit these spots. And they were like kind of just like looking around. And, then the other team and other, Goto come in and everything. And they did a couple things there that really seemed on the fly until they could get Yoshihashi back up. So yeah, there was that brief moment that I really felt like, okay, this is not going according to plan. Are they going to go straight to the finish or what? But it was a couple minutes before Yoshihashi got back to his feet.
Yeah, but I have to say, this is a Yoshi Army appreciation here. I really like that Yoshi's getting these matches in spite of, that whole spot, because for so long Yoshihashi just wasn't as respected as other members of Chaos, and so seeing this kind of career resurgence, where he's competitive in matches, he had a pretty good a couple pretty good sequences with Sonata during this match, so I really appreciated that. I think they're allowing him a little bit more space. Unfortunately, maybe a little bit too much space, but to go out there and perform. I was sad by the outcome of this match, but I can't deny that Taichi and Zack Sabre Jr. are a really good tag team. They work very well together. Where one lacks, the other picks up that slack. Of course, Taichi a little bit more power based, Zack Sabre Jr. a little bit more speed and submission. So I think they complement each other very well as a tag team, in ways that unfortunately Naito and Sonata don't, and Goto and Yoshihashi don't.
Yeah.
The other two pairs are perhaps a little bit too similar to one another in style, that there are more noticeable gaps. I liked this overall.
It was fun.
It was fun.
I'll say this, like you talked about night one, and Bushi visibly losing weight. I felt like I haven't watched New Japan for a good while. I felt like Zack Sabre Jr. has filled out more.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't look as scrawny as he used to.
He still looks pretty scrawny compared to the other guys in that he's in the ring with.
Like Sonata in there and whatnot, but he's still really slender and lanky. But I was like,
yeah, but it doesn't look like he's like somebody's gonna snap one of his arms really easy. Right. Yeah.
I was like, he really looks like he's kind of filled out a little bit. Maybe he's just growing up. Maturing. You know what I'm talking about.
Maybe he's just getting old and the weight's harder to keep off.
Yeah, he's becoming a man. But I was just like, wow, it hasn't really changed his work rate or anything. But I was like, COVID-20 maybe, I don't know. But I just happened to notice that. I was like, is that just me? Have I not seen him for so long? But I was like, yeah. There it is. It was a fun match, though.
It was. Like I said, I had a lot of fun watching this match. I love, of course, Naito and Sonata, and I love Goto and Yoshihashi. Goto, who I refer to as my dad, because he reminds me of my dad when my dad was younger. Like when I was little, that my dad basically kind of had a very Hiroki Goto aesthetic, except more tank tops instead of regular shirts because it's hot here in Hawaii.
You've never had the world title either.
Oh, woo, woo! That wrote itself, though. I gotta say that was. I know you're as hurt by that as I am. So
it pains me to see like Hiroki Goto in these type of matches when I feel like he should be, in his ace run at this stage in his career.
Okay, it would be cool. Maybe this year the G in G1 stands for Goto.
Well, I'm not holding my breath. I've been hurt too many times. Even when he's won a chance to face the champ, just never happens.
But he was, we can do a whole other video about this for sure. But he was just a victim of unfortunate timing.
Oh, yeah.
Because his sort of class of people really just, for lack of the bad word was just kind of a cut above, unfortunately for him, that it really left him nowhere.
Yeah,
Really left him no place to go.
You got, I mean, really his generation, you got Tanahashi, you got Naito. I mean, just those two guys alone. I mean, you had Nakamura, you know, and you can't have. I mean, like just that group alone. I would rank them. You know, Tanahashi, Shinsuke, and then Naito. You know, they pulled the trigger on Naito when they could have pulled the trigger on Goto. And you know, you can't just pull the trigger on everybody, unfortunately. So yeah, I agree. And then Okada come along, and they already had big plans in the works for Okada. You know, it goes without saying. I think AJ, Kenny Omega, you know, the list goes on and on. Goto was just kind of, we'll be right with you, Goto.
Oh, that hurt.
We'll be right with you. No, we got this other thing for you. It's called the open weight title.
As I've gotten older, I've really sympathized more with Goto now that I'm in my 30s and just sort of feel it. I'm just like, man, Goto should have been champ. That's fine.
Not to segue, you know, go too far off the show here, but you know, we may eventually get it. He may get that sympathy run toward the end of his career. You know, that 1 or 2 months title transfer.
I'll take it, man.
Yay! And then Great O'Khan will beat him. All right, next.
All right. So the next match we're going to talk about also hurt me. Because it was for this show just caused me a lot of pain. But I don't know, I guess I'm a glutton for punishment.
So
because I kept watching it. So of course this is for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. This is Robbie Eagles defending against love of my life, Hiromu Takahashi. I say this because he's born 20 days before me, so I know he's the one. Anyway, yeah. Born December 4th. No.
Yeah.
Yep. You know, and there was so much hype around this match. And of course, the setup of the first night of Bushi losing, not Hiromu, gave everyone some hope that Hiromu would pull it off here, right? But I think this is another case of
Owens.
I think this is another case of somebody who just happens to have their number. I mean, Hiromu's first match back after he came back from the neck injury was a tag match. It was, I believe, him and Bushi versus Will Ospreay and Robbie Eagles. And Robbie Eagles beat Hiromu in that match.
Yeah.
So, you know, I appreciated, because commentary was talking about how, you know, there are all these other junior heavyweights. The junior heavyweight division is stacked. There's so much talent in it, but a lot of, and he kind of alluded to the fact that maybe a lot of the competitors have a sort of chip on their shoulder, because no matter what they do, even if they're champ, the face of the division is still Hiromu, even when he's not the champ, because he's so popular and so charismatic, and he has such a strong fan base that kind of no matter who the champ is, whether it's Kushida, whether it's Taiji Shimori, whether it's now Robbie Eagles, whether it was Desperado before that, you know, Hiromu, the shadow of Hiromu is so large that it becomes difficult to be the face of the division even when you're the champ.
I'd agree with that.
And I 100% agree with it. You know, I agree with it. I have 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 Hiromu Takahashi jackets, and I live in Hawaii. What do I need jackets for? Nothing. I have 2 dolls. I have at least 6 or 7 shirts. I've got a pair of Hiromu shorts. You know, like, Hiromu Takahashi is definitely, you know, up there as far as one of my favorites. But, and that's in spite of if he's champion or not. So of course I can 100% understand that chip on the shoulder, because even when anyone's champ, everyone's like, well, when's Hiromu coming back? When's Hiromu getting that match? And so I liked for Robbie Eagles that he was able to beat the sort of superstar of the junior division. And I feel like that gives him a little bit more credence, legitimacy, maybe not necessarily popularity, but, you know, he's taken out Desperado. Now he's taken out Hiromu. You know, he's taking out these titans of the junior division. If he beats Taiji, that, like, he's beat all 3. So
I mean, it's if you're going to build somebody, they have to like beat Hiromu. Like you said, he like overshadows the division so much.
Hiromu's like the Kushida. He's the sort of the ace of the junior division right now. He may not be like as it hurts me to say this. He may not have the same style or perhaps level of technical experience, but as far as the charisma and the person that everyone always is immediately drawn to in the junior division, or the one to watch, so to speak, he's that, you know. And I compare him to Kushida because Kushida's time in the junior division, I feel, was so prolific for what was relatively a short-ish amount of time compared to some of the other people that we still see hanging around the junior division, compared to Liger going back to it after Kushida left, you know.
Yeah. But yeah, I you know, I think Hiromu, he's outgrown the junior division. I mean, really.
That was part of the reason why I thought he might not win, is because it's time.
Yeah, I'd put the open weight belt on him and just let him kind of build from there. Honestly, I don't think you can keep him in the junior division and anybody else start to shine.
Yeah, I think that, and that's a lot of it. Is I think, as much as I love him as a junior heavyweight, and as much as I want him to realize his dream of having the junior heavyweight championship main event at the Tokyo Dome, I do. I want everything. I want the world for Hiromu. As long as he's in the junior division, it's going to be hard for a lot of other people to care about anyone else besides Hiromu.
Yeah.
And that's evident even in how they package the junior division. So much focus is put on to, this is Hiromu's big returning match after he comes back from injury. You know, he had the match against Doki, and that match was huge. And of course he won that one, because if you lose to Doki's unfortunately sort of the bottom of the totem pole currently, because he's just not been in New Japan as long as everybody else in the junior division. So he has that sort of place right now. But so much of the commentary, so much of the dialogue has been about Hiromu, that you're absolutely right. I think as long as he's there, it's going to be hard for anybody else to really shine. And everyone remembers Hiromu's losses, because the fact that somebody beat Hiromu is such a big deal that people remember who beat him when and where.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, it hurt me because of course I always want Love My Life Hideo Takahashi to win everything all the time, but I do think it's time. And that was kind of what I went into this match thinking. I was like, if he wins, then awesome, beautiful. But if he loses, it's time. And they must realize that, because he's so popular. You know, he's been able to retain that popularity and that hype even when he's been out of the ring, out on injury, you know. So I think they recognize that they have a really special talent in him.
I think in general, like with LIJ, with all those guys, it's like, what do you do? Because they're all so over. How do you keep them together? You know, eventually, because each one of them feels like they're about ready to explode. You know, out of the group. I mean, really. Of course, at the end, we see unity, except for Evil left the group. But it'll be interesting going forward, seeing how everything plays out. You know, we had the big tease when Naito was champion, when Hiromu was junior champ. You know, it almost felt like Hiromu was going to be the one that was going to leave the group, because he wanted that. He
wanted that match bad. And like as soon as they, I guess, had allowed him to build for that match, he exploded like the time bomb he was. Like he totally went after Naito any chance he could. So yeah, I always really appreciated that, and kind of what a great segue.
Huh?
Yeah, what a great segue to the main event. So the main event was a couple months in the making, because this was supposed to happen at the first Wrestle Grand Slam, I believe, and then COVID happened. So this is Shingo Takagi defending his IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against Evil.
Now, this match
with his new House of Torture.
This match happened when Evil was champion too, right?
I believe so.
Didn't Evil defend against? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like there was a lot riding on this match, because I'm pretty sure that match happened. I'm not sure if I saw that match though. And like I said, House of Torture. No real Bullet Club feel to their
that logo, except for the Bullet Club insignia on the side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which that in itself is a whole nother line of discourse, because a lot of people are then going back to Elite era and being like, you remember when there was a subgroup in Bullet Club? Remember what happened then? And I hope that's not the direction they're going in. I don't know, but I can only hope that they're gonna peacefully coexist. Whoa!
Oh boy. Oops, already this morning.
It's because he's tough.
Yeah, there's right there. Oh, I don't know. There's two there. Say hi.
Hi. Another future champ.
No, please. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me talk for a little bit.
That's how I felt too.
Yeah.
Nailed it right on the head.
Yeah. I enjoyed the match.
Wake up.
Yes. You woke up.
What's that?
Oh, you cannot have that. Cute.
That's why we do this live, folks.
It is always a surprise. This is a run-in.
This is a run-in, 100%.
I felt like, you had the whole House of Torture out there.
Yeah.
And they kept interfering, obviously. I just kept going like, okay, is there an unspoken rule here that LIJ cannot come out to help? Like, where's LIJ?
Yeah. Well, you know,
Well,
we always kind of notice that LIJ sometimes will take their time. You
they
know,
do. Yes.
just in general, like
And
not.
it's always Bushi coming out first. Like
Yeah.
that's like the thing. Like he comes out finally, and he really gets to have a shine from this. You know, as much as we're like they don't really use him as well as they should.
You know,
He comes out,
I've always
praise everybody.
appreciated during this Shingo title run that the person that seems to have his back the most in the group is always Bushi.
Yeah.
So it's kind of really set up, especially with the Naito Sonata tag kind of tag run. Naito Sonata on one side, or as one kind of cluster, Bushi and Shingo as another kind of cluster, and then of course my superstar Hiromu. But yeah, so I like that Bushi will get that chance to look like a hero. But also very interesting is the amount of history that kind of surrounded this match from all sides. So of course you have Evil, right? Once being part of LIJ, commentary talked a lot about, and I think Evil had mentioned this as part of the reason why he left LIJ is when Shingo came in. Shingo came in to take sort of the junior heavyweight place of Hiromu, but ended up being more similar to Evil in how he operated, and his body type and his kind of style of wrestling in the ring, that Evil kind of felt like he was being pushed out. And so they talked a little bit about that. It's like, oh yeah, the similarities between Evil and Shingo, down to the dyeing of their hair and all that. And then they also talked about how Shingo has a lot of history from his time in the junior heavyweight days with Sho, because Sho and Shingo kind of had a rivalry for a while, which culminated in Sho finally beating Shingo in New Japan Cup 2019, or not 2019, 2020, because the pandemic, right? And so then they have Sho out there whispering things to Evil, possibly building up like, this is advice that I think might help you beat Shingo, because I beat him once. I studied him a lot, trying to figure out ways to beat him. And then you have the whole thing of once LIJ comes out, them talking about how, you know, LIJ is usually, they'll fight their matches for themselves. You don't often see somebody from LIJ run out unless the odds are stacked really against them. What?
A light.
The light.
Light.
Is light or the light there?
Yes.
Answer's always yes. Yeah, I mean, and then of course we get, you know, Hiromu hobbling out at the end. Good match. I liked how Shingo had an answer for everything that Evil was doing. I think this was a good match, a good follow up to the storyline with Evil betraying the group. It was a good match to show unity for LIJ. A good match to establish Shingo as champ. You know, I think we still kind of get this Will Ospreay thing hanging over Shingo's head a little bit. The only thing I would like to see Ospreay return for is to lose to Shingo.
Yeah. So it's a definitive. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's the only reason why I'd want him to come back too.
And then he can go away.
Yeah, and then you can go. You can go. Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like, you know, even if we never get that, I'd be okay with it. But you have to establish that Shingo, you know, he's the man right now.
Absolutely.
This was a good step going towards that. You know, even the whole House of Torture could not defeat Shingo. And they really tried.
They sure did. Yeah.
In the match, we really get the tease of Tanahashi. You know, she goes to leave, and he stops and backtracks, and he's kind of like, "I'll see you down the road."
Yeah. I also liked the kind of not tease necessarily, because it's definitely going to happen, but that sort of moment that Shingo and Naito have, because they're both in the same block in the G1.
Yeah.
So having that moment of like, oh yeah, well, we'll see how this all pans out.
Yeah. But it's friendly at the same time.
Yeah. No, and hey, we felt that it was going to be
Okay.
friendly in the New Japan Cup too, and then
Evil kept kind of like the whole build, the long build of Evil leaving. Evil was always like in the corner, like where he would walk out and not do the fist bump, and then
in
it was
his
like everything was smooth
darkness
over.
world.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad to see that they're united, that they were not getting that same kind of storyline, like there's going to be someone leave the group.
I
Oh.
Nice.
Auntie, on my mom.
That's awesome.
Oh, is that your rocket?
The big house.
Oh, it's your big house. Okay.
For when he's champ.
Big. What?
So yeah, I felt like we finally got the good main event ending that we didn't get night one. I know, but yeah, night two was good. I guess we'll see. Of course, we got the reveal of where the blocks stand and everything.
Yep. Tangaloa and Chase Owens entering their very first G1s.
Again.
What's
I
that?
don't think he was last year's. Tama.
Yeah, no, they didn't. Well, Tama and Tangaloa had a hard time going back for it with everything going on last year, and then the year before, they decided they didn't want to because they wanted to focus on running the tag division, which is always great, as you know. But yeah, I'm very excited that the leader of Tama's Island, as I show off my merch, is in the G1. He had talked about how he had hoped that he would be able to do the G1 this year, and I guess they had figured out all the travel stuff, so I'm really excited.
Where, I don't know if you have the list, the blocks available.
I do. I have it pulled up.
Bullet Club lie in the blocks. Because I just think it's very interesting that we now have this subdivision, so to speak.
Yes. Okay.
And
so
we have all the history with, Bullet Club in general, kind of who's the leader, who's, what all's going on there.
So the Bullet Club members in the G1 are as stands. Block A has Kenta, Tangaloa, and Yujiro. Block B has Evil, Tama Tonga, and Chase Owens. So it's 3 and 3. It's kind of
interesting.
One member of House of Torture in each. One member of God in each.
Yeah.
And then Kenta and Chase Owens. The high and the low.
Could be pretty interesting. I think, if you really wanted to solidify House of Torture, this would be a way to do it.
Totally. Evil should 100% beat Chase Owens into the ground.
Oh, yeah.
But I want Tama Tonga to win, though. That's all.
Yeah, if Tama loses to Evil, that's the outcome of that, I feel like, is, will will Tama like, okay, you won, kind of fall in line, or will we see that further split? I think everything always lies on Tama. You know what I mean? It really does. Like before with the split with Elite and all the videos, you always see Tama in the background, not happy with it, not dealing with the bullshit, just sitting on the side. He's Bullet Club. He's not about the division. So we'll see where that goes for Block B. Block A, I can't see Kenta falling in line. Like to me, like Kenta's like a lieutenant.
Well, like Kenta's not gonna lose to Yujiro. Like,
well,
okay,
you never know.
I at least for this, I think I do know. I think if anyone's gonna take that loss to Yujiro, it's gonna be Ishii in that block. I think if the two that Yujiro's gonna get, that 2 points that he's gonna get, it's gonna be from Ishii. I don't think he'll go 0. I think Chase Owens will go 0, but I don't think Yujiro will go 0.
It's kind of a shame because I mean, like Yujiro is a good hand. You know what I mean?
Tokyo Pimp.
I don't find anything wrong with his ability.
Yeah.
He just, Naito got the push and he didn't. Sadly.
Yeah, it's pretty much what it came down to.
But I just can't see. I mean, it's possible he could beat Kenta. There's always that upset, and we see House of Torture as a unit, where we don't see the rest of the Bullet Club as a unit anymore. Like originally, I would say all the way up to, the AJ run, Bullet Club was a unit. They'd be all out there together a lot of times. Once Kenny become champion, it was about the subdivision. So, I mean, we see, House of Torture as a unit. They could be out there with Yujiro and really change the outcome of a match against Kenta. Just to kind of show, like, hey, we're taking over. I mean, Jay White's not there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I really thought this year was going to be Jay White's year to win the G1. Now he's not even in it.
Yeah. I mean,
it's wild.
He's stateside. So, who knows? Who knows how this will play out? I would think that if I'm booking long term, I would have House of Torture really taking over the group and beating everybody into submission, only for Jay White to return with his American recruits, so to speak, in the Bullet Club. And then you'd have like a huge faction war, I guess.
Yeah, I'm excited for Chris Bay coming to Japan, honestly. I really like Chris Bay, and I was really happy when he ended up being with Jay White as far as like a new recruit to Bullet Club. I do think that Bullet Club doesn't need more juniors, but I like Chris Bay, and I'm excited to see what he'll do as part of Bullet Club. Because I think for a lot of people, Bullet Club will take them to that next sort of level that they can't get to being necessarily all alone. So
yeah,
that's I guess our wrap up of Wrestle Grand Slam Night 2. So I guess this is us signing off. We'll see if we do the all out video like we had planned to. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, this is the Loose Cannon and Sam Keola, Wrestling Connoisseur, signing off. I just realized now that we didn't introduce ourselves, but we need no introduction because if you've watched our channel, then you know who we are. And if you don't watch our channel, you don't need to know who we are. So
and you know why we're here.
Yeah.